the secret horror hidden inside Alcatraz. In 1790, deep in the freezing waters off the coast of San Francisco Bay, there was a prison so psychologically devastating that some inmates begged to be chained rather than left alone. Men stopped speaking. Some forgot their own names. Others became convinced the walls were moving. And perhaps the strangest part of all, this prison wasn't designed merely to hold people. It was designed to erase them. Long before the world knew the name Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, there was another place feared even more by those who entered it. The military prison hidden within the fortress itself. A prison inside a prison. A place inmates called the Hole. And according to surviving records, almost nobody came out unchanged. The island of Alcatraz had always felt unnatural. Surrounded by freezing currents, sharp rocks, and constant fog, it sat isolated in the middle of the bay, like a forgotten piece of the earth. Spanish explorers first mapped the island in 1775 and named it La Isla de los Alcatraces, Island of the Pelicans. But by the mid-1800s, the United States military saw something else entirely, the perfect human trap. In 1859, the island officially became a military fortress. Cannons lined the cliffs. Soldiers watched the waters day and night. During the American Civil War, military prisoners were already being sent there, locked away from society and from hope itself. Escape seemed impossible. The water surrounding the island was brutally cold, with currents capable of dragging even strong swimmers out into the Pacific. But what made Alcatraz terrifying wasn't just the geography. It was the silence. By the early 20th century, parts of the fortress had been converted into military prison cells. And inside those stone corridors, prison officials began experimenting with punishment methods rooted in psychological isolation. One punishment in particular became infamous among inmates: solitary confinement in complete darkness. The cells were tiny, barely large enough to stretch your arms. No light. No sound except dripping water and the distant echo of chains against concrete. Prisoners were often given only bread and water. Some were left there for days, and over time, stories began spreading among inmates about men hearing voices inside the walls. One prisoner later recalled that after several days in isolation, he became unable to distinguish dreams from reality. Another described seeing moving shadows crawling across the floor, despite being trapped in total darkness. Modern psychologists now understand what prison officials at the time did not, or perhaps did not care about. Human beings deprived of sensory input begin to mentally unravel. The brain, desperate for stimulation, creates its own reality. And Alcatraz became one of the most extreme real-world examples of that phenomenon. Then in 1934, the island transformed again. The United States government reopened Alcatraz as a maximum security federal penitentiary during the height of America's gangster era. This was no ordinary prison. It was designed specifically for inmates considered too dangerous, too violent, or too impossible to control elsewhere. Among them were some of the most infamous criminals in American history. Al Capone arrived at Alcatraz in August 1934. By then, the once powerful Chicago mob boss was already deteriorating physically and mentally due to untreated illness. Prison records reveal that the psychological pressure of the island deeply affected him. Capone reportedly became paranoid, withdrawn, and terrified that fellow inmates planned to kill him. At night, guards sometimes heard him talking to people who were not there, and Capone was far from the only inmate to break psychologically. The prison operated under a brutal philosophy: maximum routine, minimum humanity. Every day was identical. Prisoners marched in silence. Conversations were restricted. Privileges were scarce. Guards referred to the basic necessities of food, clothing, shelter, and medical care as privileges, not rights. The message was clear: your identity no longer mattered. One former inmate later described the prison as a machine built to make men disappear without dying. And then there was D Block. Inside D Block were the isolation cells,
considered the harshest punishment in Alcatraz.
The most feared among them were cells 13 through 16. Prisoners called them strip cells. The conditions were horrifyingly minimal. No mattress during the day, little clothing, bar concrete, near total darkness at night. Some inmates claimed the cold inside the cells felt unbearable, especially when the ocean fog rolled over the island. But what truly terrified prisoners were the stories. For decades, rumors spread through Alcatraz about inmates leaving. D Block psychologically destroyed. Men emerged shaking uncontrollably. Some stopped responding entirely. Others screamed throughout the night long after their punishment ended. One of the strangest accounts came from inmate Henri Young. In 1939, Young participated in a failed escape attempt from Alcatraz along with several other prisoners. After being captured, he was placed in solitary confinement in D Block for over 3 years under extreme isolation conditions. 3 years. When he finally returned to the general population in 1941, something inside him appeared shattered. Not long afterward, Young fatally attacked another inmate named Rufus McCain. But during the murder trial that followed, Young's lawyer made an explosive argument. Alcatraz itself had psychologically destroyed him. For perhaps the first time in American legal history, a courtroom seriously examined whether prolonged solitary confinement could mentally break a human being. Witnesses described the isolation conditions inside D Block in chilling detail. The trial exposed hidden realities the public had never fully seen before. Newspapers across America became fascinated by the idea that the nation's most secure prison might also be one of its most psychologically devastating. Alcatraz was never intended to rehabilitate. It was intended to intimidate. Prisoners across America knew that if they became too violent, too rebellious, too uncontrollable, they could be sent to the island. And the island had a reputation that spread far beyond its walls. Some guards later admitted that even they felt uneasy inside certain parts of the prison at night. The constant wind created strange sounds through the corridors. Pipes groaned. Foghorns echoed across the bay like distant cries. In a place already saturated with fear and isolation, the environment itself began playing tricks on people's minds. On June 11, 1962, inmates Frank Morris and brothers John Anglin and Clarence Anglin vanished from their cells. What investigators discovered the next morning seemed impossible. The official FBI investigation concluded they likely drowned in San Francisco Bay, but no bodies were ever found, and that mystery transformed Alcatraz into something even larger than a prison. It became mythology. By 1963, the federal government finally shut the prison down. Officially, the closure happened because operating Alcatraz was far too expensive. Everything, food, fuel, supplies, had to be transported by boat. Salt water constantly eroded the buildings. The prison was literally decaying into the ocean. But many historians believe another truth lingered beneath the surface. America itself was beginning to question the psychological cruelty of places like Alcatraz. The very methods once praised as discipline were increasingly viewed as dangerous forms of mental punishment. Research into isolation, trauma, and sensory deprivation would later confirm what prisoners had described decades earlier. Prolonged isolation can permanently alter the human mind. Today, millions of tourists visit Alcatraz Island every year. They walk the same corridors. They stand inside D Block. They hear recordings of clanging prison doors and distant footsteps echoing through empty halls. But many visitors leave disturbed by something unexpected. Not the bars, not the cells, the silence. Because the most terrifying thing about Alcatraz was never simply that people couldn't escape. It was the realization that after enough isolation, some prisoners no longer remembered who they were escaping for. And perhaps that is why the prison still fascinates the world today. Not because it held America's most dangerous criminals, but because it revealed something deeply uncomfortable about human nature itself. That sometimes the cruelest prisons are not the ones built to trap the body, but the ones capable of trapping the mind.